And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 725, as we continue our team-by-team previews for the 2025 fantasy baseball season. And we head to St. Louis, to the St. Louis Cardinals. In order to break down this team, this gentleman has joined me every season of this process, talking Cardinals baseball, quite knowledgeable in Cardinals baseball, also quite knowledgeable in the prospect world, as he is one of the co-founders of Prospect Live. You can find him on Twitter at MDTomp_P Live. Matt Thompson, how we doing, my friends?
Good, man. Thanks for the nice intro, Bubba. It's always fun to be on. Sorry in advance if you guys don't like the rants. Sorry, but I'm passionate about the Cardinals. They're doing their best to stomp it out of me, but I'm maintaining a level where I probably shouldn't be. But I'm still here, ready for the season, believe it or not, to start. Despite the optimism or pessimism, whatever you want to say about this team, but baseball is life, man. I can't get enough of it, and like to talk ball with people like you all the time. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's always great, and I like one reason I love having you on is the passion for the team because you and I are both fans of teams that have been very successful in the past. And we're both fans of teams that are kind of just dragging through the mud these days. And you're trying
We're
to
more alike than we want to be.
Yeah, and it's like the Giants made a couple more moves this offseason, but I still don't think it matters at the moment in time.
The Giants even lost your "We Tried" banner. You don't even get to hold that anymore. It goes to Toronto now, so you don't even have that. We used to have that, and then you guys took it from us.
As I say, we hang out a lot together in the same circle of what are we doing in this situation. So I feel your pains, what I'm trying to say, and I like chatting it with you.
I appreciate that. Not a lot of people feel sorry for me these days, and you shouldn't. Cardinals have been pretty successful, but it's been a miserable 2 years. I will say that.
I'm with you. Before we get into the Cardinals and really getting your hopes up in life, why don't you remind everybody like what you do have going on and whatnot? Because I mentioned Prospects Live, but there's way more going on than that.
Yeah, well, I'll start at Prospects Live, and we have a lot of stuff going on right now over there. If you're into Dynasty content, we just dropped some massive cool tools for you guys over there. We dropped an overall Dynasty list ranking major leaguers and minor leaguers that goes over 1,300 players deep. Smata was my partner over there, took the reins on that, and it's an awesome tool. We also have our new Dynasty Trade Matchmaker tool, which we take our rankings, and you could type in, hey, I want to trade for Wilson Contreras, and it'll kind of spit you out a few dynasty according to our Dynasty rankings and your league settings, because it's got a little toggle you can switch OBP. If you win now, if you're looking for prospects, we have little settings you can toggle, and it kind of give you, hey, all right, well, if you want to trade for him, maybe you can expect to get players like this back. Like, obviously, it's just good to have a baseline. It can help you start trade negotiations. It's not the end-all, be-all by any means, but I feel like sometimes in Dynasty leagues when you're trying to make trades, making that initial offer might be the most difficult thing, and this can maybe help you get to that point. So,
good call.
We have our show on Bally's and Stadium for our going through all the top 10 prospects in each organization. Top 20 with write-ups on our Patreon. So a lot going on Prospects Live these days, rolling through our team previews, positional previews, everything over on the Patreon. So if you would be kind enough to subscribe and follow along, that would be great.
Yep, go check them out. Like, if you're a Dynasty person, they're one of the top ones out there for sure. And they've had their moments on, draft covers. They've been all over the place. It's starting from the ground up. I remember when they started, and definitely one of the premier prospect sites for season long and just general baseball, if you so like. So. And the one last thing I'll say is, which is a sign of a really successful company. You guys have had a lot of people go onto the scouting world in real life baseball. Like, that's a pretty cool thing as well. So.
I think that obviously, we've had some of our founders get scooped up by Baseball America, for example. We've had, I'm not listing the names off because it would be horrible if I forgot somebody, but we're looking at 15 to 20 alumni that are working with teams or agencies, which is pretty strong.
Which is the reason I mentioned that, because it's awesome they did that, but that also means they still have connections for information that might help you that you can't find everywhere else. So just throwing that out there as well. All right, let's talk St. Louis Cardinals. Just for the listeners, I always mention I'm going to use ADP from January 1st. It'll be about 18 drafts or so in Draft Champs. That's just a reference point is what it is. I more so want your thoughts And we're going to start off with the shortstop, Mason Wynn. And I have quoted you so many times on my shows from when we had this conversation last year where you were like, he's going to be good. He's going to run a good amount. The average will be okay. The power will develop through the years. Eventually, it'll be there. That was always in my brain. I was happy with the way things worked last year.
Yeah.
Projected to lead off this year.
Yep.
I am all in on Mason Wynn. ADP is 161. It keeps creeping up, though. That's the bad part. But what's your thoughts? What should we expect this year with Mason Wynn?
So yeah, like I took a look at that ADP for Wynn, and he's going like right around. I think the shortstops around him are like Bogarts and
Pena and Swanson.
And Pena and I think I like Wynn over those guys because of the upside he can provide. And this is stuff you always have to be careful of, but like he talked a lot at the Cardinals winter warm-up about how he wants to run a lot more. And that's part of his stolen base attempts were low, considering someone with his speed and his skill set, his athleticism. He was saying he wants to run a little bit more. It has been a tool that he's had in the past. He had 43 steals in 2022 in the minor leagues. So it's not like it's a foreign thing. And that's before all these crazy rules, right, with the bigger bases and stuff. So he should be – I don't see a reason why he can't be a 20 to 25 stolen base guy this year. I know that's projecting off something he hasn't done in the big leagues yet. I understand that. But I think the skills are there. The eye is improving. The strikeouts went down. We're seeing improved contact rates in the second half of the season. Hopefully that carries over. The power numbers, 111 max is a pretty good barometer for a 22-year-old shortstop, right? I mean, that's a good spot to be. I think everything's trending in the right direction for Wynn, and I think you're correct to say that he's a guy that, depending on your roster construction, if you already have a couple high upside shoot for the moon types, you might want a Bogarts type over a Wynn. Okay. But Wynn is a really good dice roll to give you something more. Like, I mean, he could go 15-20 next year pretty easily. And that's a pretty valuable player at shortstop.
Okay, perfect. Because I've been saying, like, there's the world that if he goes like 2020, we're talking like this year's Zach Neto type guy.
Yeah, that could happen too. But
yeah, but even 15-20
for right-handed power. So I'll tip it down to 15 or so, but 15-20 guy is still pretty nice at the position because he's going to hit for average. Yeah. OBP leagues is a slight downgrade because he's a little bit of an aggressive hitter. He's kind of miscast as a leadoff guy. I wouldn't hit him leadoff personally, but they did it last year. No reason not to do it again because they're not going to be that competitive. They will be, but it won't be. So it's all about growth for Mason Wynn. He's your franchise player at this point, so you got to get what you can out of him.
I love it. Love it. Good to hear.
Defense is phenomenal. He's not leaving the lineup by any means. Like, no worries there. He's going to win the Gold Glove sooner rather than later. Nice. Just because of it. If he hits enough, he'll win the Gold Glove, which sounds stupid, but that's how it is.
Yes. Unfortunately, you are correct.
But, I mean, he's like, I know comparing the players across different teams is what we're doing, I mean, all day long, I guess. But, like, I'd rather have him over Anthony Volpe in real life. No questions asked, you know?
Yeah.
And sure. I think
Volpe goes usually higher than him, so yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at with Wynn. So I think, yeah, definitely he's the guy I would take to roll the dice on.
Awesome. Good to hear.
Other than Wynn, it's kind of we'll get into it, but it's kind of a boring fantasy team, to be honest.
It is. It's a real life baseball team. That's what they did. They built a team that can grind it out. They're going to grind out games. That's what they did as we go through this list here. And the next up would be Alec Burleson. Some got the nickname Barrelson last year because he actually started crushing baseballs. Only be 26, which is actually pretty good because I had to like triple check that I was seeing that correctly. He's not that old. ADP's 232. Are we back in on Burleson because he's been a tough click for me in drafts so far.
Yeah, he kind of fell apart in the second half last year, which leaves me a little bit. I don't know how you feel about first half, second half stuff. I kind of tend to put probably too much stock into that, but I think the league might have maybe figured him out a little bit.
Yeah,
meaning Burleson is a guy, he will literally swing at anything and everything. I want to say he had one of the top swing rates in all of minor league baseball or Major League Baseball, excuse me. Like a ball and in how I want to say this, in his at-bats, he was like the third most likely player to have an end with a ball in play. Okay. Like he doesn't walk, doesn't strike out all that much. Like
so out of the three true outcomes, he has the best outcome.
Yeah,
Very.
and so he's real BABIP dependent, which kind of sucks because he's slower. He's not a fast guy by any means. But I think if you are in a daily league and you have the freedom to make moves like that, I think he's a really good asset in daily leagues because he can hit right-handed pitching pretty well.
Mhm.
Makes a lot of contact, line drive hitter more than anything else. So I think the power might be kind of capped to what we saw last year, 20-ish home runs. But I don't see why he can't hit 270 again, especially if they do platoon him. I don't think they will. But as you know, platoons are a double-edged sword, right? Because the production will be better for you in a league like that, but you're also losing at bats.
Yep.
So kind of you just have to plan for it. But I think, and he'll provide sneaky steals, 5 to 6, maybe 8 steals. But like, I don't know. I think if you draft him, don't plan on anything more than what he gave you in 2024.
Okay, that makes sense. That's kind of where I've been sitting with them. If they are going to platoon him, I get really caps his ceiling, and so I've been trying to figure that out. That's why I haven't been able to draft him. I do look at the first half, second half splits, like you're saying. Obviously, I like to see a guy finish the season better. But with these young players, I talked about it with like Elliot Ramos and a bunch of these other guys. Like, as you know, it's all about making adjustments. The pitchers adjust to you, so you got to adjust to them. And being so young, if they're going to keep getting the reps, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt until for a little bit longer type thing. It's like I'm not out on Burleson because of the way he finished the year. I guess for me, it's more like what's the playing time, what's the ceiling situation. That's kind of the hindrance at that ADP. There's other guys going around him playing like regularly.
And here's the stat I found it here. He struck out just 12.8% of the time, which is awesome.
Yep.
But he only walked just under 6%. So if you look at balls in play percentage, he's number 3 in baseball behind Luis Arias and Yainer Diaz.
That's so good company.
Yeah, those guys, it works. This is a profile that works. Nico Horner's in this group, Jeremy Pena, Jackson Merrill, Bregman. Like it's don't go to the bathroom during a Burleson at bat.
You're guaranteed at least to get some entertaining.
You know what I mean? Because you'll miss the ball in play somewhere.
I get you. Let's talk about Wilson Contreras, a guy that's been oft injured, but it's been like hit by pitches, and it's not all just like the old man injuries. It's kind of some fluky stuff with some old man mixed into it.
Yeah.
ADP's 78, and the hype train is everywhere. Like, because he's going to play first base this year. So how does that affect things for you? Because the big question is, like, if he plays first every day, I move him into like the third or fourth catcher for me in a fantasy league.
Yeah, I think that's
But 100%. What are you expecting from Contreras? Are they actually going to play him at first base?
I think they're going to play him at DH more than first base.
Okay.
I think Burleson will probably be the first baseman more often, which I think with Burleson, I think then you introduce Luke and Baker as a natural platoon. I think that just makes sense.
Yeah, I get him up there with that power for sure.
But I don't know if that's what they want to do. Baker's just kind of hanging around doing whatever. Can't send him to minor leagues again where he's going to hit 30 home runs again. And you know what I mean?
Yep.
Can't figure out if he can hit major league pitching because you don't give him a chance, which I don't think he probably can't, but we'll get to that. But Contreras, I love him if he's not going to catch.
Yep.
Because if you can remember last year, JD Martinez, because he bat so deep in the box, hit him in the forearm and broke his forearm.
Yep.
So that was an injury related to playing the position. Then he hurt his thumb from catching, which is another injury related to the position. So you get him out of there. He was their best hitter last year by, I don't think it was particularly close.
Yep.
If you could get, man, I'm like dreaming of something that's never happened, but if you give me 150 games of Contreras, like, I really think you got something there. You're going to have 25, 30 home runs, possibly. From 30 home runs from a catcher, that's not from a catcher position.
Yep.
For one, that's incredible. No catchers hit 30 home runs because it's, it's a lot of wear and tear at the spot and all that. So a little bit worried. The contact percentage is dropping a little bit, and the Ks are going up as a result. But I think it's also the approach. He's taking more pitches, and the walk rate's going up. Naturally, as you take more pitches, you're going to get both ends of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if he DHs, which I think he'll do more often, either that, a catcher eligible guy that's not catching, sign me up all day, especially when he's got an elite, very good to borderline elite bat, and that's kind of where Contreras is.
Yep, I'll take it all day long. All right, a guy that I really don't know what to do with is Brendan Donovan. Coming with an ADP of 233, doesn't really do a whole lot for me. He's more of a real-life baseball player. Am I wrong there?
No, not at all. He's a guy that I probably why I don't do as well in fantasy leagues as I hope to do, because I always end up with him. not blaming that on him by any means, but like he's going in the area where you should be taking darts, like high upside darts, right? He's not that. I don't think there's very much upside with Donovan. The power has been tracking in the right direction for the last two years. The walk rate's been dropping, so he's made an approach change where he's, hunting fastballs essentially, which is working. We're seeing really good skills there. Another thing with Donovan, which helps us for fantasy, is he's going to be dual eligible.
Yeah.
Second base, outfield. He wants to play second base. I think that's his best position. And I think for what they're trying to do, which I guess it's supposed to be a youth movement, but they haven't done anything. I don't know. But it's really weird offseason. It's supposed to be play the kids, but then they haven't made any moves to do that.
Done anything to do that.
It's I don't. In reality, it's not spend money, which means play the kids because they're cheaper. But that's beside the point. Donovan is very solid. I think he's going to hit 260, 270, which in this day and age is good. And my big thing is with him, and this is not scientific at all, but like I always look for like 20 combined homers and steals, and he's not going to really provide that, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like he might be like at best case scenario, a 15 homer, 5 stolen base guy.
Yeah.
Which, okay, cool. I feel like you can find that elsewhere. And maybe take, I don't know, who's going around him in ADP that's like fun. Someone like that. You know what I mean?
I got you right here. So like where he's going, like Willie Castro goes right ahead of him. Jurickson Profar is going to move up a lot, but he's right there. Like Alec Burleson's literally the next pick after him.
I would take Burleson because I think
Tyler Gerald, Jesus Sanchez, like these are all guys that the ceilings can be high, but the floors can be low, but that's the kind of risky situations.
Right behind him at second base, Colt Keith.
There you go.
I would rather take Keith for the upside.
I like Keith.
I think that's a dart throw that you make there, right? I mean, so that's a perfect example of what I'm trying to talk about is roll the dice a little bit more at that spot. I think because Donovan's a really good, useful player, but I think in fantasy you can find a dozen of him.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you. All right, the every other day gonna be traded, but he won't waive his trade clause. And when he wants to waive his trade clause, the team doesn't want him. There's a lot of fun here, and I can only picture you every time you see a no report come out. And that's Nolan Arenado, who's coming off a just disastrous season. ADP's 226. What is going on here?
I hope this winter serves as a wake-up call for Mr. Arenado. Let's be clear. The only reason why he hasn't been traded is because nobody wants him. The Cardinals have done everything they can to accommodate his kind of ridiculous trade requests to where he wants to go. And I rip on the organization all the time for whatever they do, but I don't think they should be willing to eat money to move Arenado to make him happy. Why? You know what I mean? I don't, not to sound like a shut up and dribble kind of guy, but like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of clubhouse stuff I'm not going to get into here, but Arenado is just hasn't been who he was advertised to be when he came here. It's not his fault the team is where they're at. I'll be clear with that, but like, hopefully he uses this as all right, hey, nobody seems to be that interested in acquiring me. So let's see. Let's maybe get back to pulling the ball in the air.
Yeah. Be a good start.
And you know what I mean? And try to get back to that 20 homer. Because don't get me wrong, he's still going to hit for a solid average. He's going to play great defense at third base. He's a good real life player, as we talked about, better real life player than fantasy player at this point. A lot of these guys. Mm-hmm. I think the key for him is he's got to pull the ball. And everyone's going to look at the exit velocity numbers. He's never been a peak exit velocity guy ever because of the approach. It's lift and pull. He's not like the exit velo numbers, even in his prime Colorado years, aren't that? They're good, but they're not great, right? That's just not who he is. Get him back to pulling the ball in the air. Get him back to healthy. I think the back injury's been a problem. I think he dealt with a forearm thing last year. He also dealt with quiet quitting last year too, but I won't get into that. Yeah, I think He's not going to be a third baseman for me in fantasy, but if I can get him from my corner spot and he can hit 260 with 20, I'll take it.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. At 225, would you be willing to draft him? So it sounds like at corner infield, you would do it. Okay.
Which I think so. Which I think if third base is a spot, I think you kind of have to take early.
Yes.
Because if we're already talking about Arenado, which I think the ADP is actually fair. I don't think for a player with his normal reputation, I would think he'd be going a little higher than that. But the market's, I think, in a good spot with him. Yeah. And I just don't. There's upside, but it's minimal.
No, it makes sense because you look at like other first base and third basemen going later. There's a lot of similarities to Arenado, so he does fit the corner infield mold. So I'm there with you. I didn't know where he was going, what was going on. It's just a cluster for a while there.
I think there's a chance he might end up in Boston still. That seems to be the only real place. He needs the Bregman domino to fall as well, because Bregman is
a lot of people do right now. That's just dragging and dragging.
Well, there's only 2 teams trying to add players, so 28 teams are just.
And literally, the Dodgers have maxed out the 40-man roster, it feels like. So there's only so many places they can go.
The Dodgers actually, I think Arenado is better than Muncy. Maybe not for fantasy, but for real life.
For real life, 100%. Like,
so like
they
that
have
would
enough bombers there. He would fit that
would
really
be a place where they might, and he would. That's where he wants to go. That'd be
hilarious if they did that. Good Lord!
But I just feel like I just find it funny for a guy coming off of his 2 worst seasons, wants to be traded. He's making $27 million and hands you a list of teams, and it's like the teams that are like the premier. It's like, well, no, they don't want.
They don't want or probably don't need you. Like, there's a difference there.
And you're all right. I'll get into it because I'm already roasted him enough. You know why they signed Matt Carpenter last year?
Why?
Because Nolan Arenado threw a fit about being asked to be a clubhouse leader. So they didn't want to do it. So they signed Matt Carpenter in like March. Remember they signed, it was real late because they signed Carpenter to be the clubhouse guy because Goldschmidt's a quiet guy. He's not his type of thing. And Arenado threw a fit about how he doesn't get, paraphrasing, but that's not his job, is to lead the young players, which I might argue that it is.
Yeah, I would say there's probably good.
So that's why they signed Matt Carpenter last year, and because of that. So like,
that's ridiculous in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been trying to trade him all winter. It's held up their whole winter. Well, if you listen to them, which I don't buy that either, they need the money from the Arenado trade to make other acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for a right-handed power bat, and they're looking for a bullpen setup guy, but they can't add either one of those guys until they trade Arenado, is the impression that they were kind of selling at the Winter Fan Fest thing, which, okay, whatever, but you know what I mean? It is what it is. I guess they're trying to blame it on somebody, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a rough go. That's a rough go. I feel the pain, it sounds like, coming through that one. That
they had him traded to Houston for,
I remember that,
2 A-ball guys, and the Cardinals were going to eat like 14 or 15 million. It was a bad deal for the Cardinals to do. And then he said no, which might have saved them from themselves, but
yeah. Well, to be fair, they got him for a bucket of balls from Colorado at one point, so that worked out pretty well.
They did, and the free money from Colorado turned off, and now they want to trade him. It's weird how that worked out.
All right. I want to ask you about a guy that I'm quite interested in because I liked him a lot in the past. I know he started the season hurt, and I don't know if he played well, but didn't really turn into the Lars Nootbaar. It felt like of old. Still young, 27 years old, so he's not crazy in that regard. And when we're talking Newt, his ADP is 263. Is this a guy that we can see maybe bouncing back or getting back to that potential we once thought he could be?
The Eno Saris bump is a legit thing.
Yeah,
that's
unfortunately,
I think that's the issue with Nootbaar, right? Quote unquote, and it's sound evaluation by because Nootbaar has all the tools, right? Hits the ball hard, strong walk rates. I might argue passive. He actually had the lowest swing rate, tied for the lowest swing rate by percentage in the league. Just in general, swinging at any pitches up to the plate. Tied with Juan Soto.
The opposite of Barrelson.
Yeah, tied with Juan Soto as far as fewest pitches swung at by percentage, because Nootbaar was hurt so much. But yeah, so maybe swing the bat more. Because you're not Juan Soto, I guess.
Let me ask you a question there. We'll get back to Nootbaar because you follow a lot of prospect stuff. So that's a thing that a lot of us look at, like especially in the redraft world, is plate discipline metrics, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, and there's certain guys we say like, hey, they need to swing more. Certain guys need to swing less. Some guys were like, hey, they're aggressive, they strike out a lot, but that's why they're good at what they do. So how should we assess that? Because I agree, like, we have Nate Burleson who swings a ton, and that's a good thing. We have Newtbar who could walk a ton because, like, similar to Juan Soto, but he's not as good as Juan Soto, obviously. So maybe swing more. How do you kind of go through that? It's probably a case by case, I'm guessing, but is there more of a, I guess, balloons we can look at?
Yeah, it's case by case. Like, there's a guy I'm struggling with right now, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Twins prospect.
Dude, I had him on when I did the Twin show. I had Bendy on, and he brought him up in the prospect section. And I say every time I'm in a DC, I look at him because I know there's like good hype behind him, but I look at the profile and I don't know him well enough. I'm like, this doesn't do it for me right now.
He's like a guy that in the minor leagues, I'm not saying I've watched every at bat, but I've watched quite a decent amount of tape on him. He's a guy that just doesn't swing in a breaking ball. Yeah. So like his walk rate's boosted because he doesn't swing. Like, he's a good prospect, but I don't think he's a top 10. You know what I mean? Guy, which I think some places have. I think we might even have him there. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's case by case, league by league, because they changed the rules with AAA with the strike zone and automatic strike zone and the challenge systems there. So like, it's trying to separate the noise from everything is extremely difficult unless you're willing to put in the time to watch the video and all these guys, which you can't do for everybody. It's not possible.
That's why we appreciate Prospect Life.
But yeah,
it's knock it out.
It's a case by case thing. The prevalence of data is nice. Sometimes we have access to that kind of stuff, and Newbar was a guy that when we had minor league data showed up a little bit because the minor league numbers aren't all that impressive except for the on base percentage stuff. And it's kind of translated the same way in the big leagues, right? It's a lot of power potential, a lot of on base potential, or on base actuality, because he does get on base at a high amount. But like, if he's a guy that's going to be healthy and play all the time, like, I think he should be the leadoff guy. I remember how I alluded to Wynn being up there, but like maybe mess with Newtbar in the top spot in the order. But he's got two things he needs to do: stay healthy and lift more, because he's hitting ball on the ground a lot, which has been a thing the last 2 years as well. A lot of ground balls. But the offensive foundation is there. They did hire a new hitting coach this year, which I'm a little bit excited about, just because it's something different. I don't have any insight to Brant Brown as far as what he does and what he teaches or anything, but like, somebody different is good. Somebody from outside the organization is good.
100%, yeah.
So we'll see if he can get guys like Newtbar and Walker to lift. That's the big win, right? If you can figure out a way to make that happen. But Newtbar if he just needs to stop getting hurt all the time. I don't know how you do that, but and he's not a center fielder. I know they're going to try him in center. I don't think that's going to work that well because he gets beat deep on so many balls. But we'll see.
You mentioned Jordan Walker, and this is a guy that the hype train has been ridiculous the last couple of years, and obviously
part of it's on me because I watched a lot of his minor league stuff, and he was an animal. But.
Well, and that's the thing is he's destroyed minor league baseball. Like, he's crushed it, and it just hasn't panned out. And sometimes it takes players longer. And he's already talked about he worked on his swing adjustments this year with your new coach you were talking about. That's like he's very optimistic about the changes. You
saw that winter warm up press conferencing where he was talking about.
Yeah, and he's going to be 23, which is like he's still so freaking young. Like,
listening to him talk is impressive. He's just so mature beyond his years. I know that's a corny saying, but like, he really is. Like, he's a guy, and this doesn't have anything to do with fantasy baseball, but he's a guy that you want to be successful just because he's so like down to earth. Like, I've seen him so many times like give his jersey to kids and stuff like that. Like, he's an easy guy to root for.
Yeah,
like all that stuff, which cool, but like,
you got to put it on the field too.
They put him in the worst spot possible.
Yes,
because do you remember 2 years ago when he was out at AFL?
Yeah,
that was the first time he'd ever played the outfield.
Oh goodness!
Like, in his life, was out there.
Because he was a third baseman, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
and he did well out there. And then, like, he went to spring training early and played outfield with the coaches there. And then he made the opening day roster. So he never played until this year a game in the outfield in the minor leagues. So
that's ridiculous.
So they put him in the major league outfield first, and he was the worst defender in baseball, if you go by that. Who One thing I don't understand, and I haven't been able to get a reason why about this. Goldschmidt, obviously they let him walk, which I understand that. Sure. Why not have Walker playing first base this winter?
It makes sense, right?
I don't understand why you wouldn't. He's not a right fielder. Like he no fault of his own. He's worked his ass off. He's putting in whatever work needs to be done. From everything I've been told, the makeup is outstanding and the makeup's off the charts, which is why I keep thinking he's going to be successful, and I still think he will be. But why is he not playing first base in the winter? Why is he not working out at first? You don't have a first baseman long term in your organization right now. Contreras is going to DH more than play first base. I promise you that. So why isn't Walker playing first base? I don't know.
I get that. It makes a lot of sense, especially if you're talking about Luke and Baker. You're talking about Alex Burleson. Like Walker seems like a good choice there.
Burleson sucks in the outfield on defense, but he's better than Walker. Yeah. So why not improve your defense marginally, even if anything? And
the Cardinals have always had like a slew of these kind of similar outfield types.
Yeah.
So why put Walker out there? Leave these other guys out there. Let them go play outfield. And yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, you need Walker is like the most important player. Him and Wynn in the organization.
I was about to say those should be your poster boys going forward. Like literally the youngest dudes in the world that are still like so much potential.
In Jordan Walker's development is massive for them right now. He has to be the guy they need him to be. And again, it's inconsistent playing time, being yo-yoed around. Bad couple weeks in April. Miserable start a couple weeks in April, I'll be honest. But then they sent him down, and you didn't see him again until September, August. He didn't hit that well in the minors, but he was working on different things. Wasn't just allowed to see the ball, hit the ball, was going through a process of reworking a swing in a way. So throw out the minor league numbers from this year, which I know you can't do, but they're not pure as far as see the ball, hit the ball. They're working on it's a controlled environment where they're working on a swing change with him, working on lifting the ball. It worked okay. But then he came up and it all went away again. I don't know how you get somebody to lift. That's one of the hardest things to do. But they're looking for a right-handed power bat. Like, this is the guy. You have him.
Yes, you do.
Just put whatever you need to do into development. Hire his own personal coach if you need to do that. Like,
I do remember in the years we've been talking, development has not been a thing you've liked about the organization.
No, and they admitted it this year. They finally admitted it this year. They said that this is paraphrasing them, Mozeliak. They said they know that the young players in the last couple of years haven't been put in the best position when they get to the big leagues.
Okay.
So they're finally addressing that, making changes, adding coaches to the coaching staff because they had one of the smallest coaching staff in the league, I guess, last couple of years. So they're adding coaches, and hopefully, they can find somebody that can get to Jordan Walker and turn him into what they want, because the upside is still here to be a 260, 25 guy perennially on the corner. Like, I don't think that's gone. The exit velo, I mean, the guy hit a baseball 115 miles per hour last year.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just do that, right?
The skills are legit. Like you said, it just turns into going from a launch angle that hits it on the ground to hit it in the air. It's pretty, it sounds simple. Obviously, like you said, it's not
the hardest
simple,
thing to do.
Yeah. But he's got the skills to do everything else. It just,
Yeah. So they'll go as far as Walker takes them this year if they let him play. And everything they're talking about seems to indicate that they're going to let him get his playing time out there, which is the right move if you're not going to be competitive. So I think they'll surprise some people. I think they'll hang around 500 all year. But
my question for you, would you take Jordan Walker at an ADP of 290?
The cop-out answer is no. Kind of wait and see.
Like, would you rather have him or Evan Carter?
Evan Carter.
Would you rather have Walker or Joe Adell?
Walker.
Okay, because it goes Adell, Walker, Carter based on the outfielders in that range.
I think that's a good floor for what Walker could do with regular playing time, is what Adell has done.
Okay, that's not bad at 290. If you ever
figure out
to elevate it, it's interesting. I'm rooting for him. I'm hoping this time next year we have a whole different conversation on the guy. That's fine.
This is if he doesn't hit this year, we might not even be talking about him next year, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true.
You'd be on a different podcast with somebody else talking about Jordan Walker.
All right, let's talk about the catching situation since we did mention Wilson Contreras is playing DH or first base right now. So you got Ivan Herrera, who I love.
Yeah,
Really good bat to ball skill. Defense is a little on the lower side. That's where Pedro Pajes gets in the mix here. How do you see it playing out? Because everyone's drafting Herrera like he's the guy. I hope he's the guy. Where do you sit on this one?
I think it'll be a 60-40 split,
Okay.
which probably isn't what you want to hear.
No, that's kind of what I was thinking, honestly. I knew it wouldn't be 50-50, but I kind of looked
It,
at how
it
September
might
played out.
be
September played
50-50.
out that way because Herrera would DH, but Contreras was hurt. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It might be 50-50. They like Pajes because he's a good defender.
Yep.
But he's an abysmal hitter. The only thing he really offers is cheap power, but he'll tank you everywhere else. So, like, he's not a guy that I'd invest in any real form. Herrera has offensive upside. Hits the ball hard. Controls his zone pretty well. Has some power upside that he hasn't gotten into yet. He's going off the board as the 19th catcher.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd rather have him over Ruiz, but the thing with Ruiz is he's going to play every day.
Yeah, he's going to get all that run. Yeah.
I think on a pure talent ability, he's in the Moreno and Wells group.
Okay.
But it's just the playing time. I would take him probably around Ruiz. I think that's fine. I think there's some chance he DHs when he doesn't catch. I think DH is going to be a revolving door for them a little bit. Contreras will be the head guy there. He'll place him first.
Okay.
But I think they'll mix and match that spot. Walker will be in the DH mix. That's the guy that maybe should be the DH. But I like Herrera a lot. I know they love Pajes.
Yep.
And I wish I had better news, but I think it's going to be a 60-40.
No, you're pretty much in line with what I've been worried about this whole time because that knowing the Cardinals as well as I know them from talking to you and just baseball in general, they prefer winning games. They don't care about your fantasy team, and Pajes with that defense, it is good. It's very good. Like there's no denying that. So like that's how they roll, and I'm well aware of that in that system. So we'll see how it plays out. Like I got Herrera like as a catcher 3 in my DCs.
That's beautiful.
In case something runs, like I can be over the moon with that.
Well, there'll be weeks where he'll be a catcher 1 just because he hits enough, and
and just one injury, and all of a sudden he can be like going crazy.
The thing with Herrera too is it's not necessarily the defense that's bad; it's the throwing.
Okay,
he's a revolving door as far as people stealing on him. Slow release, not all that accurate of an arm. A lot of that is on the pitchers sometimes, but he just couldn't throw anybody out, and they've been spoiled because it's not something they've had to worry about in the past. I think Molina allowed fewer, even attempts against him than the second team did in stolen bases allowed, while he was the catcher, in that 15-year span. They've been incredibly spoiled with that, controlling the running game, and that fell apart because every time somebody got on base with Herrera last year, it was an automatic double. I want to say they gave up the most stolen bases in the league, but I don't know if that's 100%.
All right. Well, we'll see how it goes. We're rooting for it. I'm really curious your thoughts here because I've been anti-Victor Scott all last draft season.
You were right. I was wrong on him last year.
Yeah, but again, a young player, I'm willing to show growth. I was more worried about playing time in general than just the hype. But ADP's 412 now. 412.
Was it higher than that last year?
It was way higher than that because that's why I was off of it. This hype train's ridiculous. Now it's literally he's probably not even drafted in most regular redraft leagues right now. So now it's a conversation to be had of how do we look at Victor Scott for this year when it comes to potentially evaluating as a sleeper or a fab target or a late round DC pick. Yeah. How do you like Victor Scott now?
I think he might be the fastest player in baseball that we saw last year anyways. That should play this year. Maybe Chandler Simpson from Tampa might be a little quicker, but he hasn't made his debut yet. But that's 40 stolen base upside if he plays every day. Mm-hmm. If that's what you're going for, great. But I think there's more well-rounded players. You might be able to get a guy with 30 steals that might have a 300 OBP as opposed to Scott with 40 and 290, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He might just tank you a little bit somewhere else. He's a way better hitter than he showed last year, but he looked awful last year. So there's upside there. if you build your roster right and don't rely on solely him for steals, you might have something, right? Something. And the thing that annoys me is Michael Ciani's on the roster as well. And they're both left-handed hitting center fielders.
And they like Ciani.
I don't understand why.
Yeah, but they played him a lot last year.
We did our Cardinals preview. It wasn't last year. It might have been 2 years ago, and I called him the worst player on their 40-man roster, and he's still kicking. So, yep, he's not good. I don't understand how you can carry Ciani and Victor Scott.
You can't,
because they're both no offense. Well, baseline of no offense, but at least Scott has upside. At least Scott has 10 homer power. Ciani's a nothing burger.
Yeah.
I like Scott. It's nothing more than a dart throw at this point, but I think there's legit upside. If everything goes well, 250, 10 homers, 40 steals, which I think is a hell of a player. Even with the stolen bases up, I still think you want a 40 steal guy if he's going to hit 250. I still think you would want that. But Ciani has no business being drafted in any league format. I would rather draft Albert Pujols in 2025 I think, than Michael Ciani. But
that's outstanding.
But Victor Scott, yeah, I think you can do worse as a dart throw. I wish I had more. It's just hard to base it off of.
And that's where I'm at. Like, he's young. He could do it this year. To me, it's more like I still got to wait and see approach, but he's not expensive for once. So at least it's on the table, which I'm good with.
Pick your stolen base jackrabbit guy that you like at the end of your drafts. And
yeah, I'd rather take him there than take one early, for sure.
Yeah.
All day long.
And I think there he could fit because there's a chance he breaks. Everybody I've talked to, there's a chance he breaks camp. There's a chance they hand him the center field job.
Yep. So that would change a lot of things. Yep.
And he's going to bat ninth. They're not going to mess around with him there. And there's a path to fantasy relevance for sure here. But I wish I had more info because he's hard player to pin down.
I want to ask you about a couple of the bench players. You wrote a couple down. We don't need to talk about Ciani. We already put him in his grave. But Nolan Gorman was once a highly touted guy, swings and misses at everything, but tons of power. And there's been rumors of optimism. We got Thomas Saggese, who I like what's there. I don't know where he fits in the world of their team right now.
Yeah.
But how do you see these guys maybe having an impact because they're very cheap in fantasy right now?
So Saggese's an easier case. As of right now, Saggese's the backup shortstop, which a little bit scary, but it's the truth right now. He's the guy. If something happens with Wynn and they need a shortstop, they're going to him. So by default, that tells me that he's also going to be on the big league roster because obviously you need two shortstops, right? He's a guy that I like a bit. Can play second, can play third, could probably play first if he had to. Really good guy as far as similar bucket to what I talked about with Arenado earlier. He plays the angles and pulls the ball more so than the allowed exit velocity numbers that are going to pop at you. He's not that type. The track record in the minor leagues for Saggese is outstanding. He's hit everywhere. I like him a lot, especially as a guy that can maybe handle lefties in a pinch. You're going to be boring when I say this, but probably a better real-life player than a fantasy player. But I think the upside for Saggese is something like 260 and 20.
Okay.
And I think that plays.
That definitely plays.
Can play second, can play third. Like I said, could even be their backup shortstop right now.
His ADP's 565.
Yeah, and as a roster, and at that point, anybody with big league at bat, you're going to want, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to make the roster as of right now, unless they sign a shortstop. I will say the only signing outside the organization they've made this winter is a minor league deal for Jose Barrero, who's also a shortstop.
Yep.
So maybe that's a exciting winter competition for a roster spot we get to look forward to.
Exciting.
But no, it's I like Saggese a lot. I think he's a very solid player. He's not going to blow anybody's doors off, but he's going to be the classic Cardinals devil magic, if that still exists, guy, because he's going to come out of nowhere and hit. You know what I mean? Have a good stretch. Yeah.
Yep. Sweet. All right. Let's head to the mound on this
Gorman, though.
Sorry.
Gorman real
Gorman.
quick? No.
Yeah, real quick. Hit Gorman up.
Did you know Nolan Gorman has a top 20 home run rate since he debuted, even
Yeah,
despite all the struggles?
no, that's what I'm saying. He crushes baseballs.
Yeah,
He just strikes out
like
like a sieve.
so. Like they need the Arenado trade because what they've already come out and said is like if they do trade Arenado, Gorman's the third baseman.
Yep.
So, but the way the roster is currently constructed, Arenado is going to play every day, and Donovan is probably so. Like, long story short, with all the moving pieces, you cannot play Walker and Gorman at the same time, essentially, every day, because you're taking. I mean, Donovan sits, and they're not going to do that. So one of those two guys has to emerge as like an everyday guy. So Gorman, who's also going pretty late in drafts, is a really good cheap power source. I know those are easy to find, and I know those are come with problems, but like I don't think his floor will kill you as much as other guys' floor because they'll simply send him down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? He's not a 30-year-old guy they're gonna hang on to for 2 months if he's hitting 120. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just not gonna work. They're gonna cut it, they're gonna send him down, and sometimes zeros are better than like than negative, right? So I think there's some dart throw upside here for Gorman that I'm mildly excited about because the power is unteachable. It's the massive stuff. It's just new hitting coach, new philosophies. Hopefully something clicks with there.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah, he's again the one thing about a lot of these Cardinals that we're not over the moon with, but if they do make adjustments, a lot of them are young. Like there's still room for growth. So it's not like they're a bunch of now where the Giants are usually a bunch of old farts that are just like, why are we still paying them? You at least have youth over here that you can maybe mold into something.
I don't know how they do it with how the roster is currently built, but Mason Wynn, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, and Ivan Herrera should play pretty much every day.
That's on paper is a pretty good group of four.
That's what should happen if you're committed to your youth movement, like you say you are.
Yeah, that's fair.
We'll see.
Let's go to the mound where it's not a youth movement.
No,
this is a different story, but you got Sonny Gray leading the way with an ADP of 103. Sonny Gray was pretty darn good last season. He's been actually really good for a while now.
Awesome.
Strikeouts went up last year, but he's been good. Getting old though. So how are we looking at Sonny Gray this year? Because I don't mind him as like an SP2 or SP3 if you're really aggressive on pitching.
Yeah,
but I can't make him an ace.
No, he can't be your ace. But that was even the case last year. I think even last year we said the same thing. Like he can't be your fantasy ace, but I think as a number 2, I think you could. Like his ERA last year was way worse than it should have been.
Yeah,
he should have been a low 3s guy, not a 3.8 guy.
Yep,
just by all the indicators. It doesn't mean anything for fantasy, but he's one of the most fun pitchers to watch, just because of the arsenal, how athletic he is on the mound. The slider is a legit pitch, like one of the best pitches in baseball. He's just a fun dude to watch. I really think last year his season started late because of the groin injury. But if you can factor in 20, limit him to 28 starts or so, I think you're going to be really happy with the results. No reason to think that he can't repeat last year, which should have been better than it was, right? I mean, so I'm all aboard the Sonny Gray trade. He's like one of the few exciting guys on this roster. Strikeouts went up last year. The walks went down from the previous year. Like he almost won the Cy Young in 2023 in the American League. Like he was like was he like top 3? I think
he was up there. Like I guess that's what I'm saying. He's been really good. The strikeouts took off this past year, which was
I think he's the most. He might be the most underrated pitcher in the sport.
I'm with you. Like I was hoping the Giants were going to go get him. Honestly, I was pretty.
Yeah, no, he's really good. And then one thing that gets overlooked in fantasy, not by you guys, because I know you and Bloomfield do an excellent job of talking about it, but the WHIP category. I think WHIP gets thrown like in the trash sometimes because it's not as shiny as ERA. But like if you have a bad WHIP, you're not recovering from that. And Sonny Gray is a guy that's going to keep your WHIP down pretty good because he doesn't allow base runners, doesn't walk guys, misses bats. Like it's a really good combination. One minor thing I'm worried about is Paul Goldschmidt's not there at first base to play really good defense anymore.
Okay.
And if they do put Contreras there, you might see an uptick in errors or things not called errors. right? That
Yeah.
hurt all the pitchers on the staff as a whole, especially ground ball dominant staff, which is going to be a theme here.
It's a theme for this team for sure.
Which, hey, I'm still waiting for when things are going to be different because they said things are going to be different, but I'm still seeing ground ball guys everywhere. Still seeing sinker guys everywhere. But hey. But Sonny Gray's a buy.
Better than fly ball guys, so we'll go that direction.
Sonny Gray is but in that park you might want fly ball.
That's true. That's true.
But Sonny Gray for me is a buy.
100%.
I'm very much in on who's he going around. Let me see the ADP.
It's 103. Pull it back up here. He's got pitcher wise, like Logan Webb's right behind him.
I'll take Gray over Webb. Strikeout upside.
Yep. Right in front of him is Grayson Rodriguez, Hunter Brown, Max Fried, Freddie Peralta.
I'd take Sonny Gray over all those guys.
Yeah, Freddie Peralta would be the only one I'd fight back on, but I would.
I agree with that.
But I wouldn't be opposed to it, like a 1A, 1B type thing.
And if you told me Max Fried was going to be healthy, I would maybe dabble there. But
Fried's a tough one for me this offseason, man.
That 8-year deal is baffling to me, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's tricky.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
All right, let's talk Eric Fede, who came over from the KBO last year. Gets traded from, I believe it was the White Sox to St. Louis. Ratios were great. Strikeouts has never really been his bag, but really pitched, helped towards the end there. ADP 315. Are we back in on Eric Fede this year? We're just like, that was a one-hit wonder.
I think I'm in to an extent as like a late game play because like he's like a nice late game play I like because he doesn't walk guys. And again, he can kind of protect that whip category a little bit. ERA should be fine, but you got to get your strikeouts from somewhere else. You're not going to get them from him, but he was traded in the deal that sent Tommy Edman to the Dodgers.
That's right. The 3-way deal. That's what it was.
And the Cardinals now have a streak going to where they've been shitty the last 3 years, but they also have produced a league championship series MVP. So that speaks at 3 right now. I want to see who's the fourth guy. Who's the guy?
Nolan Arenado traded at the deadline.
Who's the guy they trade this year that wins a LCS MVP because of Randy Arozarena with Tampa, Adolis Garcia with Texas,
that's amazing,
and Tommy Edman with the Dodgers. So they churn out MVPs, just not with them.
Dude, that's wild. Unbelievable. All right. You said you need to find your Ks with Fede. I got a new one for you. Miles Mikolas, talk about finding Ks. I don't have a lot to say. He pitches to so much contact, ADP 600. At least the fantasy world's finally caught on to him being pretty much worthless in the fantasy realm. Tell me I'm wrong, but I want nothing to do with Miles Mikolas.
Do you work a union job?
No,
I'm a union worker, so there's a lot of guys a lot of Miles
Mikolas. I knew where you're going with
that. Yeah. Wake up every day, cash your check. That's kind of where we're at. Awesome. I fully support my union, by the way. I'm not trying to say I don't, but that's where we're at. John Anderson on Twitter had this stat, and most pitches thrown in the strike zone in 2024, Mikolas is in the top 10. Perhaps he shouldn't be because he's around other guys that actually get results. He just doesn't have the stuff to back it up. Yeah. He's also top 5 in pitches thrown down the middle of the plate.
And he doesn't have the stuff to do that.
And right around him, Jake Irvin was number 1.
Oh, Jesus.
But number 2 is Logan Gilbert. Tariq Skubal's number 3, Mikolas is number 4, and Kikuchi's number 5. So, like, yeah. It's an interesting group of pitchers. I don't know what that says, but it says to me that maybe Mikolas shouldn't be doing that.
Just a hunch.
The only format that I think he can provide any sort of value is a 20-plus team points league.
An 18-team NL only league.
Yeah, an 8-team NL Central.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that. I'm still dying about the union comment.
I can't think of a better way.
It's perfect. That's why I loved it.
Cash your checks.
It is. Yep. Wake up, show up at 8, leave at 5, whatever. Yeah, I get it. Yes, perfect.
That's what I was trying to say. Like he's the old guy that's not.
That is.
He's
retirement age yet, man. He's still going. Yep. Well, we got a young arm in Andrew Palante who. He's another guy that doesn't strike dudes out. This is a theme, like you mentioned, sinker. What are we doing? His ADP is almost 500 though, and he's young. Do we have optimism on that
Yeah.
being viable?
I kind of dig Palante because he's kind of a unicorn. His fastball like is unique. He doesn't throw a traditional sinker, but he still gets 60% ground ball rate with a four-seamer, which is kind of insane. I think he's backed it up. He's shown enough in the past where he gets ground balls at over a 50-55% rate. Strikeouts aren't everything for fantasy. They're important, but there's other ways to do it. You don't want a whole maybe they should take my advice, but you don't want a whole staff of these guys.
Yes.
But like one or two Andre Palantes can be really good for your fantasy team because they're cheap.
Yep, very cheap. Like I like him in drafted holds. I love him there.
Yeah, he's gonna. He's a guy that looks like he's gonna start because they like. I kind of agree with that. Can't say I'm all that excited. I love stuff plus metrics. He's not gonna pop on that. He's not that type of guy. It's a weird fastball, like I said. It's a unicorn pitch in a way, so like you can't really compare it to anything else. I wish I knew more about it, but like one thing he does need to do is tighten up the command a little bit, and I'm hoping not bouncing in between the rotation and the bullpen for once might be good in that aspect. Late game dart throw, but that's it. But like I think you can do worse.
All right, good to know. Last man in the rotation is Steven Matz, a very injured 2024 season. His ADP 631 is even worse than Mikolas. Or I'd almost take Matz over Miles, but I really don't care for either.
I would take Adam Wainwright, I think.
There.
I think the problem with Matz is he's got more strikeout upside, but he's also going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 years he's gotten hurt. The last 3 years he's gotten hurt. He's come back and pitched later out of the bullpen, and he did well. So when you're looking at his overall numbers, his strikeout rates are inflated because for the last month and a half of the year, he was throwing 1-2 inning bursts, which he can air it out. And he was doing well. He, pitch an inning, strike out two guys, or you know what I mean, and throw 2 innings and get 4 Ks or whatever. And so that messes with the ratio. So you're looking at an elevated strikeout rate because of the bullpen stuff. If you go back to 2021 when he was a full-time starter, the strikeout rate's a little bit lower, right? Because of that. So be careful. I shouldn't have to tell anybody, but Steven Matz isn't a hot commodity, so don't worry about it. I would take, if you're looking for innings, I would rather have Mikolas over Matz. But if you're looking at a per inning basis, I want Matz. But I also wouldn't be winning anything with either of those two guys. So,
all right, let's talk Ryan Helsley coming off a career year by far. Now there's rumors like he could be on the trade block. There's all kinds of goofiness going on.
They've said they're not going to trade him as of right now.
Okay, that's good because ADP is 51. So are we buying back? Like we're paying for a career year, or are you interested in doing so?
Yeah, yes. He's healthy. 2023, he missed some time with injury, but like the numbers are still solid. Even then they were good, but there's no hesitation on Helsley because even if he is traded, he's going to close wherever he goes. There's maybe 2 spots he doesn't close. You know what I mean? As far as like looking at who's better than him.
Yeah.
Draft with confidence because I think he's fine. I actually think they're going to work out something with him long term. He's going to hit the market, I think, but I think they're going to try to re-sign him. He seems fine here. He's awesome. He's a really good pitcher, and they could trade him and get the moon for him probably for a desperate team at the deadline. See what closer goes down with injuries and then opens up the field. But if I were the Cardinals, I would make a strong push to sign him around July. And if he doesn't want to sign, then you flip him.
Perfect.
But
what other pitchers would we be looking at? You have McGreevy down here, who I actually streamed at times last year. I liked his upside.
Yeah.
Who else should we keep in mind?
Well, McGreevy is – so I don't know what – like they need to just move Mikolas to the bullpen and give McGreevy the rotation spot.
Yes, agreed 100%.
If you're going to be the youth movement thing, then just do it. McGreevy's not going to blow anybody's doors off, but I think he can be a solid Eric Fetty type if he gets enough of an opportunity. He was really good last year down the stretch. But as always, you got to look who you're facing. Is against like Texas in July, end of July, Colorado, the Giants, I think, in September. Pittsburgh, I think. So you're not looking at really strong offenses or teams that really in the mix, but he did well.
Mm-hmm.
The really good thing about McGreevy is he's allergic to walking guys, and that's
perfect.
That's what you want for a late game. For a late dart throw, that's what I'm looking for. Everyone, you'll chase strikeout upside. I'll take guys that don't walk guys that have a legit chance of playing time, because then that's going to stabilize you in so many ways. If a manager can't trust a guy, they're not going to use him. But if you show you can get away without not walking guys, I think that opens up a path for playing time. The stuff is a little bit below average, I'd say overall, but it's a deep arsenal. Ground ball heavy mix. Ground balls in command. It's a good recipe for a back end starter, and I think McGreevy's got it.
What other prospects should we be looking at in this system? Again, it's a pretty young team that's up already, but anything else that might have some impact this year?
There's two pitchers that are notable for me. Tink Hence is on the 40-man roster. He's a name that prospect guys, if you follow baseball, you probably heard about Tink Hence, at least from a periphery as far as prospects go. Really athletic kid. Dealt with some health injuries, health concerns. Never had surgery, though, which I think is important. But he's been some shoulder woes, a lat, fingers. Like he's had minor, I say minor, but he's missed some decent amount of time with injuries. He's on the 40-man, so I think he's going to get an opportunity this year as long as he stays healthy. And I think they're going to introduce him in the bullpen first, which maybe not be the best for fantasy, but he's been one of their top prospects for years. And 2024 was the first time he's pitched into the sixth inning in a game. And he only did it 3 times. So they've been really careful with him. The stuff is really good. The command is good. He has everything. He checks all the boxes. He could be a Sonny Gray in the future.
Okay.
He's a young athlete that's skinnier frame, kind of like a Tristan McKenzie type frame, but better athlete. That's kind of who he reminds me of. Okay. Really good stuff. Can get up to 98, 99 with the fastball. Really good set of breaking balls. Good changeup. He's got the tire mix. The only thing he doesn't have is durability. And this is the year where he tries to put that together. If he can start, he's going to start the year in AAA. Okay. From what I've been told, length in games is their priority with him this year. They want him to almost ignore the AAA numbers. If you're scouting those, he might stick out a little bit longer than he maybe should because they're trying to just build him up.
Okay.
That's going to be their thing. So if they can get him built up, I really think in June or so he could be in a rotation option for the rest of the year. And then the guy that everyone's going to really like is Quinn Matthews, who's got that strikeout upside. K minus BB is a good barometer. Not the end all be all by any means for pitchers, but I think he had the 3rd best in all of professional baseball, minors and majors last year. He was a guy probably more famous for throwing the 156 pitches in a game in college for Stanford in the College World Series. And
that's why that name sounds familiar.
Yep.
Okay.
He went he was the guy that threw 156 pitches because he knew he wasn't going back to Stanford. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to pitch them into the World Series, and he almost did. And he might have. I don't know if they won the game or not. Anyways, caused an uproar on social media or stuff, as it should. I guess it was his decision to do that, looking into it. But now, going into pro ball, he's actually thrown less than he has in college. So now he's once a week instead of twice a week, essentially how minor league schedule works out. You're most throwing once a week. So with more time off and better resting and better arm care routine, he's done a lot of work outside the organization himself also. It's not the Cardinals get no credit. It's Matthews doing work outside the organization and just being in pro ball and getting more rest. But the stuff has taken off. He's a lefty now that can touch 98 pretty consistently. Really good set of breaking balls and a good changeup. He's got the 4-pitch mix. He's not on the 40-man, so I think Hence will get an opportunity first. But Matthews could very much force the issue. And I think, remember, McGreevy made a couple starts at the end of the year last year, kind of trying to make that fantasy, kind of that push to the finish line. Mm-hmm. Matthews is a guy to keep your eyes on for maybe that August, September push. Okay. If you're looking for quality innings, everyone kind of, as rightly so, you kind of ignore Cardinals pitchers after you get past Sonny Gray when you're looking for streamers, right? Yeah. Matthews might be that guy because he can get whiffs and limits walks. And Hentz is also kind of – so those two guys are names to watch for later in the year. I'm not as confident in Hentz being around to pitch later in the year because I think they're going to be aggressive with him early as far as like innings per game, and he might hit an innings limit or so. You know what I mean? Beginning of September or something.
Because he's only 22. They're going to work him through it.
Matthews is more built up, so I think he might be the guy that could go August, September. It wouldn't surprise me if he's in the big leagues.
Yeah, Matthews has an ADP of 391, so you have to be aggressive on that.
That's too high.
It's too high for me. If you're saying August, September, I can't do it.
He's not on the 40-man.
Tink has 660 though. That's interesting. If you believe he gets a shot.
Yeah, because you got to look. I mean, it's a roadmap, right? So they got Sonny Gray. He's going to pitch till he can't. Michaelis is going to pitch till he can't. Matz, Eric Fetty.
Yeah,
Fetty might be a trade candidate in July. Yep. Even if he is more so than McGreevy, Hentz, Matthews are going to step up into that spot, right? So
that makes sense.
Like that's the guy. Matz is always a trade candidate because they're always trying to get rid of him.
Yes. Yep.
Michaelis is a trade candidate because they're always trying to get rid of him. So there's potential for openings here for these guys.
All right, last question I have for you before we head out of here. What are your expectations for 2025?
75 to 80 wins.
Wild card or no?
Oh, no way.
Okay, just checking because you never know these days with the 3 wild cards. Usually a 500 team finds their way in, but maybe not in the NL these days. Not in the NL.
It's the year of transition because Chaim Bloom takes over after this year. They kept Mozeliak on because they didn't want Bloom to be the guy. So Bloom was most known for what? One thing, trading Mookie Betts, right? And that's not fair to him because he wasn't the one that did it. The ownership made him do it.
Yep.
So like part of the deal for him to come on here was they didn't want him to be responsible for letting 2 Hall of Famers go in Goldschmidt and Arenado.
Arenado was fair. Yeah.
So Mozeliak stayed on in this transition role. And I hate it, but I like it at the same time. So
yeah, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see.
Last year was unusual for me, but I lost interest in September watching these guys, and that doesn't happen for me.
It's happened to me with the Giants the last couple of years, and I'm with you. It usually does not happen to me, but if I'm not in my office doing work on the computer, I wasn't really tuned into many games. Yep. That was the bad part about it.
It's so unusual for me not to, but I couldn't do it anymore.
The care's got to be there on the reciprocating factor of it.
And then like this winter has been, you preach youth movement, but you've done nothing to free up playing time for the kids.
Yep.
And even if playing the kids is just gaslighting us for you wanting to save money, fine. But you haven't done anything. I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't vented about this yet, so
no, go for it.
No, we're good. I just taking the winter off is never a good thing.
No, that's what the Marlins do. You don't want to be the Marlins. Let's just put it that way.
We have spent the same amount of money on free agents as the Marlins have. So, and the Twins.
Bright side is there's still a couple months till the season starts, and maybe once those dominoes start to drop, something happens. We'll see. Get Arenado out of there, move things around. Hopefully, something can change. We'll see.
Optimistic that maybe there'll be some quote unquote values still on the board for them as spring training starts, and they'll add somebody.
Yep.
I know they're looking to add a right-handed reliever that could potentially work the 7th, 8th innings, which is important, and they're looking for right-handed power. So I know they're looking to at least swim in those pools, but we'll see. They could have those in house. Maybe that's Walker, and maybe that's McGreevy or Hentz.
Yep.
Who knows? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you have options if they free up the availability of said options. So that'll be the telltale sign there.
Yep.
But all right, Matt, as we head out of here, once again, remind everybody where they can find you and what you got going on.
MD_Tomp_ Live on the socials. Busy work, family, as everybody else has. I'm trying to do all the website stuff I can. Patreon, we're switching to a new site over at Prospects Live in the next month or so. Okay. We're going to get rid of the Patreon thing and have everything under one roof, which would be nice. No double posting things, no doing all that stuff. it'll be easier for the user, easier to consume everything. The app suite that Smata has developed will continue. It's got our top 500 update, which is coming out soon. For our last update was in October for the prospects list. Not a lot of movement in the wintertime, but player evaluations change. You dig into deeper players. I'm updating the FYPD list on the Patreon, hopefully to have out next week with the J15 kids that just signed. I say kids because they are kids.
Yes, they are.
Horrible system. I hate it. I'm over here trying to watch video on 16-year-olds. I hate it. I hate it so much. Shouldn't be that way, but it is. But we will have an update for that over on the site for your dynasty drafts. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, we have the big dynasty top 1,300, and we're rolling through the organization lists and the position lists on our Patreon. So please follow us over there.
Awesome, everybody. Yeah, make sure you're doing that, especially if you're in Dynasty or you're just like minor league baseball because you support your teams, whatever factor you're in, they got it all for you. So go check it out. And Matt's one of the good ones, known him for quite a while. And
appreciate that.
Yeah, always love chatting with you because sometimes we just need to let it out. And that's the beauty of some of these shows because we can't all be the Dodgers and just everything's, rainbows and sunshine. We have to enjoy some other things. So make sure y'all check out Matt on Twitter again at MDTom_P Live. This was Benched with Bubba, episode 725, your St. Louis Cardinals team preview. Catch y'all next time.